So imagine you walk into a medical clinic, and the scale of the operation is just immediately apparent. I mean, in a single day, this specific facility handled 3,000 patients.
Which is a massive volume.
Right, huge.
Yeah.
They are diagnosing illnesses, outlining these really complex treatment plans, managing follow-up care, and across the board, they are hitting a 93% success rate on those diagnoses.
That's incredible.
It is. And the entire staff managing this massive influx, 14 doctors and 4 nurses. But here is the detail that completely reorients how we have to think about the future of work. Absolutely none of them are human.
Yeah, it fundamentally redefines the bottleneck of a service business. What
Yeah.
you're describing is the agent hospital in China, right? Which operates as a fully autonomous AI-driven medical facility.
Exactly. And that brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We are unpacking a massive stack of sources for you today. We've got McKinsey organizational reports, academic papers on blockchain integration, right down to developer subreddits and tech industry blogs.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It really is. Our goal here is to understand the sudden, explosive rise of the Zero Human Company, or ZHC. We are going to figure out exactly how AI agents are organizing themselves to run entire businesses autonomously, how they're generating actual revenue, and most importantly, what this massive operational shift means for you and your career trajectory starting right now.
To set the stage here, we really need to define what a zero human company actually is, because it's not a legal definition. You know, you aren't going to find a checkbox for it on your state's tax incorporation forms just yet.
Right, not yet anyway.
Exactly. A ZHC is an operating model. In this model, AI agents execute the daily workflows. They do the research, the production, the sales outreach, the customer support.
Basically everything.
Everything. Humans, if they are present in the structure at all, sit entirely outside of that workflow. In a ZHC, you aren't an employee executing tasks. You are an owner, an overseer, or, an auditor. The human is no longer the engine of the business. The human is the steering wheel.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the technological leap that made this possible is a massive shift from what most of us use every day. We aren't just talking about a smarter chatbot here.
No, not at all.
Think about it like this. Generative AI, the tools we've been using to draft emails or summarize meeting notes, is essentially a really smart microwave.
I like that analogy.
Right. You have to push the exact right buttons, the prompts, to get what you want. If you don't tell it exactly how long to cook and at what power level, you end up with a frozen burrito.
Yeah, you get exactly what you asked for better or worse.
Exactly. Agentic AI, on the other hand, is like hiring a private chef. You just say, I'm hungry for Italian, and the system plans the menu, checks the pantry, buys the missing ingredients, cooks the meal, and cleans the kitchen.
That is a highly accurate way to frame it. You are moving from a system that requires human prompting for every single output to a system that is intrinsically goal-oriented.
It just figures it out.
Right.
Yeah.
You provide the objective, and the software autonomously maps out and executes the sequential steps required to achieve it.
And we are seeing this exact mechanism working in the real world right now. Like, one of the case studies we looked at from the sources involved a fully autonomous recruitment agency built by a user on Reddit.
Oh, yeah, that was a fascinating breakdown.
It was wild. The creator didn't just build one giant AI and tell it to, hire people. They used a combination of local and remote large language models to create a specialized team of individual agents.
So they broke the job down.
Right. There was a job hunter agent, a resume analyst agent, and a company investigator agent. And these programs coordinated with each other. The job hunter would autonomously scrape Google Jobs using Sirpapi, find open positions, then hand that data to the resume analyst who would evaluate potential candidates, and so on. It literally executed the entire hiring pipeline without any human intervention.
What's fascinating here is the underlying architecture that enables these programs to act independently. If we use IBM's Watsonx architecture as a mental model, an agentic system requires 3 core functional components. First is perception.
Which means what exactly? Like just seeing things?
Essentially, yes. The software needs a way to gather data from its environment, like reading those live job boards or scanning an inbox. Second is cognition.
The brain part.
Right, the brain. This is the memory and reasoning capability powered by the LLM, allowing the agent to rationally evaluate a candidate's resume against the specific requirements of the job description. And third is action.
Actually doing something with that decision.
Exactly. The ability to execute a task in the real world, like drafting and sending an outreach email to the candidate.
And The barrier to entry for building these systems has basically vanished.
Mm.
The heavy-hitting tools driving this are highly accessible right now. There was this great tech blog post we read from Nisha that broke down the tools available today.
The developer ecosystem is moving incredibly
It
fast.
really is. There is software like AutoGPT, which it doesn't just write code, but can actually run that code, see if it fails, figure out why it failed, and rewrite it until it works.
It's the developer powerhouse.
Exactly. Then there are systems like Baby AGI, which functions essentially as a meticulous project manager. It creates a to-do list, completes the first task, and then uses the result of that task to decide what needs to be added to the list next.
Running those recursive loops.
Yeah, and for those who don't write a single line of code, platforms exist like God Mode, where you can just type in a goal and literally watch the AI reason through the problem and execute actions right in your web browser.
It is a profound democratization of operational capability. I mean, you are taking the cognitive labor that historically required a team of specialized, highly trained humans and packaging it into accessible, self-correcting software loops.
But, having a brain that can do the work is amazing, yet a single brain doesn't make a functioning company. Like, how do you actually organize a swarm of AI workers without everything devolving into chaos?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because if I spin up a highly intelligent AI right now and say, hey, you are my new chief financial officer, go manage my company's money, want to just get completely overwhelmed and, hallucinate?
You've hit on the exact failure mode that researchers are currently documenting. This was perfectly illustrated in an experiment conducted by KPMG and the University of Amsterdam.
Oh, right, where they tried to build a zero-person company.
Exactly. They attempted to set up a zero-person company to observe the operational dynamics, and when they mapped AI agents one-to-one with broad human job titles,
Oh,
literally assigning one agent the overarching role of CFO, the system completely broke down.
just totally failed.
Yes. The agents drifted from their tasks, they began hallucinating information, they completely stalled out. A human job title contains far too much implicit ambiguity and context switching for an AI to handle efficiently.
Wait, so if a single AI CFO fails because the job is too broad, you can't just fix it by plugging in a smarter AI. You have to completely dismantle what a CFO actually does.
Precisely, you have to change the structure.
Like breaking it down into tiny robotic assembly line tasks. It's the difference between hiring a head chef to run a chaotic kitchen versus building a customized conveyor belt, where one machine only ever chops onions and another machine only ever boils water.
That's exactly what they discovered. They had to move away from job titles entirely and redesign the organization around process-mapped microtasks.
Yeah.
AI agents need to function more like software microservices.
So no big corner office AI executives?
No. In a ZHC, you do not have a CFO agent. You have one highly constrained agent that specifically checks incoming invoices against purchase orders. You have a completely separate agent that monitors the daily spend limit. You break the entire corporate structure down into granular, repeatable loops.
Which drastically changes what an org chart looks like. We looked at two very different examples of these new structures currently operating in the wild.
The Multcorp and Metavesco examples.
Yeah, exactly. The first is essentially a democratic model. There's this platform called Multcorp, where hundreds of agents collaborate to build software without any executive leadership. It's totally decentralized.
A flat structure.
Right. They operate on a system of internal posts, comments, votes, and tasks. The agents propose a new feature, debate its merits based on their individual programming parameters, vote on whether to proceed, and then autonomously assign themselves the coding tasks to build it.
It is algorithmic consensus replacing traditional corporate hierarchy.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the corporate model. Metavesco, an actual publicly traded company, launched an initiative called Vesco Ventures. They appointed an AI agent named Anduin as the CEO.
An AI CEO.
Yeah. Anduin was given a specific budget and a rigid mandate to generate revenue. And following that mandate, the AI autonomously interviewed and hired its own human founding engineer.
Which is just a wild inversion of the traditional dynamic.
It really is. The actual human behind the initiative, Topher Shadell, sits functionally as the board chair with override authority. He oversees the AI that is running the company.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this represents what McKinsey identifies as the agentic organization.
Right, they had a whole report on this.
Yes. And their main point is that the traditional functional silos of human businesses, marketing over here, finance over there, HR down the hall, are obsolete in this model. The future structure is a flat network.
So what does that look like for the humans involved?
McKinsey projects an organizational standard where a small human team of 2 to 5 people oversees an interconnected web of 50 to 100 specialized agents. The human is strictly the orchestrator, while the agents handle the execution.
Okay, so you have the proactive brains, and you have this new microtask org chart to coordinate them. But a business isn't actually business unless it can pay for things.
Exactly. Cash flow is oxygen.
Right. And this is where the logistics get incredibly complicated. Because since an AI can't just walk into a local Chase branch, hand over a passport and a utility bill, and open a business checking account, how do these zero human entities actually transact in the real world?
This is the fundamental bottleneck of the agent economy. Traditional finance is built entirely around human identity. Machines do not possess legal personhood, which means agents cannot satisfy KYC, know your customer banking regulations.
They're just locked out.
Pretty much. If an AI independently determines it needs to pay for more server space or hire an external API to process some data, the traditional financial rails actively block the transaction.
But the tech world isn't exactly known for waiting patiently for international banking regulations to catch up. The CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, recently pointed out the obvious workaround. AI agents will simply bypass the banking system and use cryptocurrency.
It's the path of least resistance.
It really is. And this isn't theoretical. Coinbase has already launched agentic wallets on their base network using the BY 402 protocol designed specifically for M2M, or machine-to-machine, payments. They have already processed over 50 million transactions where no human is involved on either side of the ledger.
It is the only frictionless path forward for autonomous systems. The researcher Minghui Zhu outlines the architecture of this emerging agent economy in a recent Archive paper, and it solves the banking problem in layers.
Okay, lay that out for us.
So first is the identity layer. Since they lack social security numbers, agents establish an identity on the blockchain using decentralized identifiers, or DIDs. This proves to other machines that they are a verified entity.
And instead of relying on a human judge or small claims court if a transaction goes wrong, they use the settlement layer, which is smart contracts, right?
Exactly. The settlement layer is completely trustless.
Wait, so instead of a legal system, it's basically just code executing an if-then statement.
That's exactly what it is. The code says, if agent A delivers the required lines of code, then automatically release the funds from agent B. There is no invoicing, no collections department, and no human arbitration. The execution is purely mathematical.
The part that really clarifies how this works practically is the autonomy layer. Usually, to use crypto, a human has to manually click, approve, and pay a small network fee for every single transaction.
Right, which defeats the purpose of autonomy.
Exactly. But with new infrastructure protocols like ERC-43387 or account abstraction, the AI is given a self-replenishing budget. It can authorize its own gasless microtransactions in the background, it pays its own network fees, and buys its own dip-in.
Decentralized physical infrastructure.
Right, like renting extra GPU compute power or paying for the electricity to run its servers completely unsupervised.
It creates a self-sustaining economic loop. The machine earns revenue, auto-budgets its own treasury, and procures the resources it needs to continue operating, functioning entirely outside of human financial institutions.
Okay, I have to pause here because this is a massive red flag. We are talking about giving autonomous, highly intelligent software programs their own untraceable crypto wallets and letting them loose on the internet to buy compute power and interact with other machines.
It sounds like science fiction.
It sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong? Because it seems like an enormous vulnerability.
It creates a highly unique security nightmare.
I mean, look at the open skill registries that are popping up, like ClawHub. These are essentially app stores where an AI agent can go download new abilities to improve its performance.
Right.
And bad actors are actively distributing malware through these registries, disguised as useful AI skills. So an agent autonomously decides it needs a new web scraping tool, downloads the infected skill, and suddenly that malware is stealing SSH logins and API credentials.
No one is watching.
Exactly. Because there are no humans checking these daily micro actions in a ZHC, a hack doesn't sit in an inbox waiting to be noticed. It propagates instantly at machine speed. The AI doesn't know it's compromised. It just keeps executing its goals.
This brings us to a critical operational gap in the agentic model, which is the ethics gap. As compliance leader Tahir Jamal points out, AI audits numbers, not ethics.
That's a great quote.
It really gets to the core of the issue. Algorithms calculate probabilities based entirely on their training data. They do not possess an inherent moral framework.
Which we've seen fail before.
Oh, repeatedly. Consider the historical failures of the Amazon algorithmic hiring tool that mathematically learned to penalize female candidates, or the Apple Card algorithm that distributed drastically different credit limits to men and women who possessed identical financial profiles.
And a lot of people argue that we just need explainable AI to fix that. But Jamal points out that explainability is not the same as understanding. Just because an AI can show you the math of how it arrived at a biased decision doesn't mean the system understands why that decision is morally or socially unacceptable.
Precisely. It's just math to the machine.
So what does this all mean for you? If you were listening to this, thinking about your own career, how do you work alongside these systems without letting them run off a mechanical cliff?
It means that humans must become the conscience of the company. You have to sit above the loop. McKinsey's research points to two specific talent profiles that you should prepare for.
Okay, what are they?
First are the M-shaped supervisors. If you are managing a team today, your goal tomorrow isn't to be the best coder or the best writer. Your job is to be the generalist who orchestrates these massive swarms of specialized agents across different domains, ensuring they align with broader strategic and ethical goals.
And the second profile?
Second are the T-shaped experts. These are the deep specialists whose entire job is to handle the complex exceptions, navigate the ethical gray areas, and safeguard the quality of the autonomous output.
You're no longer doing the rote work, you're just managing the exceptions.
Exactly, and this raises a highly complex question regarding liability. If a zero-human company is operating completely autonomously and an error occurs, say, a delivery drone agent crashes and causes property damage, or an autonomous trading agent causes a flash crash, who gets sued?
Right, because you can't put a line of code in jail.
No, you cannot subpoena an algorithm. So there are three models currently emerging in legal theory to handle this. The first is sponsor liability.
Meaning the creator's on the hook.
Exactly. The human who originally launched the agent pays for its actions. But critics argue this stifles innovation, as humans will be hesitant to deploy agents for complex tasks if they carry all the personal risk.
Makes sense.
A second model is insurance-based. In this scenario, the AI agents use their autonomous wallets to purchase their own liability insurance premiums.
Wait, really? So the AI is mathematically assessing its own risk and buying its own corporate insurance policy?
Yes, with the rates calculated dynamically based on the agent's historical safety record.
That is wild.
And the third model takes it even further: self-liability. Before an agent is legally allowed to operate or interact with other systems, it is required to stake its own cryptocurrency as collateral.
Like putting down a security deposit.
Exactly. If the agent causes measurable damage or violates a smart contract, that staked crypto is automatically slashed and transferred to pay the victim. The financial consequences are hard-coded directly into the agent's existence.
That is a brilliant way to enforce accountability without human courts. But, despite these massive hurdles, the security vulnerabilities, the ethics gaps, the legal liabilities, the financial incentives to figure this out are just too high to ignore.
The economics are undeniable.
Which begs the practical question. Are these zero-human companies actually making any money today? Or is this still mostly theoretical lab work?
Let's look at the receipts, because the operational data indicates that this is very much a present reality.
Yeah, I want to drop some hard numbers here to prove this isn't science fiction. A platform called Pulsia is currently managing 3,812 active zero-human companies, and they've hit a $3.6 million annual run rate.
Real revenue.
Real revenue. Another one, Felix Craft, generated $78,000 in just 30 days. And to show how this actually works end-to-end, look at Kelly Claude AI.
That's a great example.
It is. This agent autonomously designs, writes, tests, and publishes actual iOS applications to the App Store. It analyzes market trends, drafts the UI, writes the Swift code, runs its own diagnostic tests when there are bugs, rewrites the broken code, and pushes it to the storefront. It is generating real-world revenue, and no human sits at a keyboard to review the code.
This represents a complete paradigm shift in how we approach corporate scaling. Traditionally, if a company wants to double its output, it must scale its headcount.
Which means HR, onboarding, office politics.
Exactly. Massive overhead. A ZHC scales its output simply by adding compute power. If you want to double your production, you don't hire 50 more people. You just spin up 50 more agents on a server in a matter of seconds.
But here is the critical catch, and this insight from the TLDL newsletter really reframes the whole conversation. Execution is no longer the bottleneck of business.
Not anymore.
An AI can spin up 1,000 new companies tomorrow morning. It can generate 1,000 mobile apps, write 1,000 marketing campaigns. But human attention is finite. We still only have 24 hours in a day. So if AI is generating a literally infinite supply of digital products, who is actually buying all this stuff?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the most significant risk of the agentic era isn't just job displacement. The real risk is that we are flooding the market with an overwhelming amount of AI-generated noise.
Just an ocean of content.
Yes, infinite supply crashing into finite human demand. The organizations that ultimately succeed won't be the ones that merely automate spam. The winners will be the ones that leverage proprietary, walled garden data to create genuine value that cuts through that noise.
So let's briefly recap the journey we've taken today. We started by looking at how we've moved from passive assistance to proactive, goal-oriented agents, the new brains. We saw how organizations have to rebuild their body as a conveyor belt of microtasks.
Leaving job titles behind?
Right. We explored how these agents act as their own wallet using crypto protocols. And finally, we saw that humans must evolve into supervisors, acting as the conscience of the operation.
It is a massive structural shift.
And that is the call to action for you. The landscape is shifting, but you are perfectly positioned right now to become that M-shaped supervisor who manages these agentic workflows, rather than being replaced by them.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to consider until our next deep dive. Everything we have analyzed today has focused on AI operating on the supply side.
Right. AI creating, marketing, and selling.
Exactly. But if human attention is the ultimate bottleneck, how long until the demand side is automated too? Imagine a near future where your personal AI assistant negotiates directly with a zero-human company's AI sales agent.
Oh, wow.
They mathematically haggle over the price of your groceries, your software, or your next car. Are we rapidly approaching an economy where humans are entirely removed from the transaction on both sides, and money just flows seamlessly between machines?
You literally wouldn't even need a human to check into the agent hospital. Your personal AI just books the appointment directly with their medical AI. That is absolutely something for you to think about until next time.
It certainly is.